Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor. I've been spending the last month or so with the 2023 Honda NC750X. This is a dual clutch automatic transmission motorcycle. Honda used to give it to you in either manual or automatic form, but at least here in the United States of America, you're only getting it as an automatic now. And that makes sense to me because in both pricing and engine specs, this bike is not too far off of Honda's newest entrant, the Transalp, which I reviewed separately. You can check the link below if you want to see that. But they're both rocking about 750cc parallel twin engines, although they make their power very differently, and this one makes a good bit less power. This one also weighs more, coming in at about 500 pounds, where the Transalp's down closer to 440. But this one does have some advantages on top of just being automatic for more of a commuter daily rider style motorcycle compared to the more off-road oriented and sprightly nature of the Transalp. So we're going to go for a ride today. We're going to show off some of the features of the NC here, talk about who it might be good for, who it might not be good for, and most importantly, just have some fun. It's been out for a few years now, and before that it was the NC700, so a little bit smaller motor. This one bumped up a little bit, making 58 horsepower and 53 pound-feet of torque. Respectable numbers. For this weight of bike, for me, that's just barely getting into the exciting and having fun sort of territory. Below that, you're simply motivating the motorcycle, and don't get me wrong, you can still have a lot of fun with less power than that, but when you're dealing with about 500 pounds like this, getting up above 50 horsepower is just where you can kind of start to, hey there, how's it going? Unfortunately, I was booted from the parking lot that I started this video in. I've been filming in that parking lot for almost 9 months now, and finally, their security decided that they didn't want free branding in the background. So I'm going to have a word with them and see if we can work something out. But anyway, where were we? Getting about that over 50, 55 horsepower figures, giving you enough so that when you twist the throttle, you really get going and get some excitement into the riding experience there. So we're going to experience that here in a moment. Checking out a few other aspects of the bike. The most notable is the trunk. This bike actually features a cargo area right here where most bikes have their fuel tanks. It's locking and it's deep enough to even fit my large Arai helmet in there. Even with my GoPro mounts and everything, it fits down. I've found myself using this bike a lot for grocery run trips, times that I need to take the bike somewhere and don't want to have my helmet out exposed or carry it inside or something. I simply put it in here and go away. Put my gloves inside it and everything. It's very nice to have. Fairly standard suspension setup. It's not exactly plush, but it's good for daily type riding. Oh, I should also point out the fuel tank is below the seat since it can't be up here. So you actually twist that and then the passenger seat pops up and you got your fuel tank. And it actually is a little bit annoying that when you just take this gas cap off, there's nothing to, nowhere to put it or anything. I mean, you can kind of just go like that. And it looks and feels like something you'd get on a simple Chinese moped or something, but I understand that it's functional and it simply works, but small complaints. Haven't done any passenger riding impressions. Alyssa has not gone with me on this bike yet, so I'm not quite sure. The passenger seat seems like it'd be okay. It's a little firm and flat, but there seems to be a decent amount of room there, and you got some handles the passenger could hold on to. A big appeal of the NC platform is being able to customize it to how you want to do your riding, and honestly, this is the type of bike that should be used by somebody who's doing a lot of daily sort of riding, whether it's a commute or just somebody who likes to ride a lot, maybe do some traveling, because you're getting really good day-to-day fuel economy, as we experienced with our DM fuel economy test. Did quite well. And it just allows you to put on luggage or a taller windshield or various accessories to make your daily riding experience more enjoyable. Fairly rudimentary gauge cluster here. It's just a standard digital display, no sort of TFT or anything, but it does give you a few different ride modes that we'll go through. Tells you your time, gear, which a little less important being an automatic, but in some ways more important. Some basic fuel economy and that sort of readout, trip A and trip B. We do have traction control and ABS. Press the D button with the kickstand up to get it into gear, and simply twist the wrist and away we go. One thing I've appreciated about the NC, having it around my condo complex, is that it's a particularly quiet engine. And sometimes I feel bad when I'm starting up my bikes at a weird time of day and kind of maybe annoying the neighbors, but don't have to worry about that as much with this bike because it really is quiet on startup. Doesn't mean it doesn't still have a little bit of a throaty acceleration sound, but idling, it's pretty darn docile. As I said, we do have a few different ride modes. We've got the standard ride mode that it starts up in, and then you can press the select button, go to rain, user defined, or sport. And within those drive modes, it adjusts parameters for the transmission shifting algorithm, the power, the engine braking, and the traction control. V-strom action there. As you can see, still plenty of power to get up, have fun, and because the bike's just doing the shifting for you, you don't get quite as much sensation going from gear to gear. And for some people, that's nice. Maybe if you're just daily riding, you're not having to clutch in, clutch out, kind of feel the rock back and forth, transmission shifting. But when you're doing a little bit more spirited riding, sometimes it would be nice to maybe feel a little bit more clunk action of the gears. Bike is still plenty tossable, and because we got that lower center of gravity with the under seat fuel tank, it really is happy to just be thrown back and forth. Of course, not the most aggressive rubber on here, but it's paired well with the nature and kind of the intention of the bike. In standard drive mode, the bike upshifts very quickly, so it's going to go for a very calm riding experience, a little more fuel economy oriented. But if you ride around in sport mode, then the bike's going to act a little bit more like how a conventional rider might shift his or her motorcycle. It holds gears for a while and doesn't really upshift into 5th or 6th until it really knows that you're just putzing along. You don't want that power anymore immediately. But if you're riding around town and you're in sport mode, it's going to hold gear a little bit more than you would. But you don't have to relinquish all of your shifting control to a computer. You can still upshift and downshift using your fingers on your left hand. So I'm in second right now, coming down to a stop. I can downshift to first. I can also shift up to second. So let's press this A/M button to get myself into manual mode. Accelerate here. And then you can see, run right in to that rev limiter as though I were in a car or something. I could just press 2. Cycle right through, but it's not the most intuitive hand placement. You're having to sort of take your fingers off of the handlebar in order to shift. So I'm doing spirited riding like this. I have it in sport mode, give full right wrist twist, and let it shift for itself, because if I slow down here, I mean it's downshifting immediately as I slow down. It's got me right in the power band the whole time. The shifting doesn't interrupt or upset the bike much. So if I'm kind of coming into a corner like this, and I brake hard, it's not like the bike's all of a sudden getting upset and messing me up just by shifting. Honda's been making these dual clutch automatic motorcycles for over a decade at this point, and they've really honed in on the shifting algorithm for motorcycle applications, and it's a more relaxing way to ride. I'm serious. And if you're somebody who does commute regularly in heavy traffic sort of situations, you're going to appreciate being able to devote more of your attention to the riding situation and what's going on the road in front of you, instead of worrying about shifting. And for those of us who have been riding for a long time, yeah, shifting becomes second nature. I mean, you don't think you're having to really devote any mental power to it, but you don't realize that even if you're just doing a little bit of paying attention, even if it's subconsciously, to which gear you're in, what gear you should be in, when you should be shifting, that's taking just that little bit of attention away from other things that you could be spending that attention on. So for me, if I'm someone who's riding in regularly into traffic type situations, and I'm riding maybe not only for fun, but also for a commute, then I'm all about the automatic. Brake feel is adequate. It's about what you'd expect for a $10,000 heavier Honda that doesn't have sporting pretensions. It's not exactly wooden feeling, but it's a little bit more like an on-off switch. You're not getting that nice progressive bite and feel. It's just sort of, I press it and squeeze it, and the bike slows down. There's no big surprises there. And of course, because I do have ABS, I can slam on the brakes as hard as I want, and the bike should keep itself upright. Let's got a little test here behind us. Yep, full squeeze, and the bike is doing its best to slow down safely. It's a remarkably upright seating position. I find it very comfortable. This is, again, if you're using your bike for commuting and you're going to be riding around in traffic and you want to be able to see nicely around you. You're sitting up, almost dirt bike-like, not much lean. Arms can be nicely outstretched. Very comfortable experience. I will say my legs are a little bit bent. I'm 5'10", and maybe because of the low seat height, my legs are bent more than I might want for kind of hour-plus riding situations. Now, this is not exactly an adventure motorcycle. Honda now gives you the Transalp on top of their Africa Twin for doing more off-roady sort of riding, but you can use this bike in dirt road situations, and even though it's got cast wheels and a little bit more basic suspension, why not, right? Yeah, sometimes you need to go off-road, so let's take it down the trail here, and by trail I just mean dirt road. See how it does. Full twist of the wrist. I'm getting traction control intervention, so you can see it's trying to keep me from spinning myself out there. We do have some very light skid plate protection underneath there, but it's just plastic. There's nothing that's really going to protect your engine and oil pan and everything down there. The tires are also not particularly robust, so you gotta kind of know what you're doing. If I slam on the brakes, getting a lot of ABS action. Oh, you can hear how much it's killing that. I wonder if we can turn that off. Let's see here. There we go. Traction control off. You just go into the user mode and hold down on the power, on the directional button here. All right, let's try this. There we go. Alright, so it still allows us to play around. I don't believe you can disable any of the ABS though, so like I said, no super hardcore off-roading for this one. But if you're more of a casual rider, you're probably just going to want to have traction control on as well, even if you're going on some dirt roads. Now, being the dual clutch automatic, you don't have to worry about it stalling if you're doing some more slower speed crawling, and because of the lower seat height on this bike, it's very easy to put your feet down. If you need to nurse it down some hills like this, I can just kind of nice and easy walk it down, some front brake. Yeah. Walk it through this mud. Very easy to flat foot at my 5'10", 32-inch inseam. Another nice thing about commuting on the NC750 is the width of the bike, and especially just the handlebars and mirrors themselves. The handlebars and mirrors are the widest part of the bike, especially if you don't have any sort of saddlebags on the back. And they're pretty narrow, which means you can get right in between cars if you live in an area where it's legal to lane filter like it is here in California. Just slide right up in between vehicles. And that's something I noticed about the Transalp as well. Both these Honda bikes, nice and narrow and much easier to lane split than it was on something like the V-Strom. And that's definitely something I appreciate about this bike. Right, I should be able to show you a little bit of the lane filtering right here. This light, slow it on down, and not the widest opening, but again, confident the bike can just sneak right through. If you do plan on doing a good amount of highway commuting with your NC, I recommend putting on a larger windshield and some hand wind deflectors, because this little guy not doing too much. And in fact, in some ways it makes it worse for somebody my height, because it channels dirty air right up to my helmet, resulting in a really loud experience. I almost exclusively have to ride with earplugs on this bike that don't like the sound of the wind hitting me. And those of you who are familiar with a lot of bikes will know sometimes the clean air of a bike with no windshield is actually quieter than having one like this where you're getting the turbulence. But the power is definitely there to get up on the highway, go nice and quick. No cruise control, so you just have to kind of settle in, hold it. 6th gear, cruising along. We're at about 3,800 RPM roughly. It's not bad being up here, especially with the earplugs in, but like I said, it's just much more enjoyable with the big old screen. Something to block the wind out your hands. It's certainly doable, but again, nothing, it's not exactly made to be a highway cruiser. One thing you will have to get used to being on an automatic bike like this is you can't really blip the throttle at stoplights. Some people have just kind of a tendency to do that, kind of absentmindedly, and some people actually do it as a method of warning other drivers that you're around, but I can't exactly do that with this one. I mean, you could put it into neutral real quick and then flip the throttle, but if it's a habit you have to kind of give that little right wrist twist when you're at a stop, then it's not going to work too well on this bike. So there it is, the Honda NC750X. A quirky bike, but just another example of how cool it is that you can have so many different options in the motorcycle sphere. I mean, this is going to be a perfect bike for somebody looking for a regular daily rider sort of commuter motorcycle. And it's not going to be super great for somebody really looking for a thrill machine. It's just not that. But that's what's so cool about Honda being such a large and robust motorcycle manufacturer, is they've got a bike for everybody. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the bike, check the link below. Got a few other videos, and leave a comment if you got a question. I'll try to answer it, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, ride on.